Okay, imagine this. A show that's so impactful, it doesn't just save a TV network that's kind of struggling, but it also, almost by accident, kicks off a whole new genre of reality TV.
Right.
And then, like, more than 10 years later, it completely reinvents itself for a whole new audience, finding, even deeper meaning. It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
It really is quite something. And it's not just about how much we all seem to love a good makeover, is it?
No.
It's really about how this seemingly simple idea managed to tap into something much more profound, more human. The show went way beyond just fixing clothes or houses.
Exactly. It started looking at people's inner lives.
Yeah, it really dared to go there.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going to take a deep dive into this huge cultural phenomenon, Queer Eye. And like you said, it's not just a story about, great suits or cool living rooms. It's this big saga. It's about how culture changes, the fight for acceptance, and honestly, the surprisingly deep impact these 5 gay men had just trying to help people out.
And you've given us this fantastic stack of sources. Really great stuff. Tracing Queer Eye right from its, let's say, audacious beginnings on Bravo all the way to where it is now, dominating on Netflix.
Yeah.
So our mission today really is to unpack that whole journey. We want to explore its influence, because it definitely had one, on pop culture and, the bigger social conversations happening.
For sure.
And we need to examine its approach, which is quite nuanced, towards things like identity, self-care, community. Really try and figure out why it connects so deeply with so many different kinds of people.
Absolutely. So what can you expect from this deep dive? Well, we'll take you right back. From the show's first iteration, that sort of make better pageant, which is a great phrase one source used, captures that early vibe.
It does. Very external.
Very external, yeah. All the way to its modern day mission, which is much more about genuine acceptance. We're going to look at specific transformations, some really moving ones. And importantly, we're not going to shy away from the tricky stuff. Some of the critiques, the complexities, what some sources call the unfixable problems the show sometimes, bumps up against.
Right, because it's not perfect.
No show is. So get ready for, I think, some surprising facts, maybe a few aha moments that might just change how you view reality TV.
It's definitely a rich mix, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got the social commentary, the personal growth, and yeah, let's be honest, some seriously good taste woven all through it.
Definitely.
How it blends all that, that's really key to its power, I think.
Okay, let's do this. Let's rewind. Way back. Early 2000s. Think about it. This is before streaming really took off, before everyone had a smartphone glued to their hand.
Different world.
Totally different world. And the TV landscape. Well, there was this channel, Bravo. And to put it gently, it wasn't doing great.
No, it was struggling.
Sources describe it really vividly, like a flailing television network in need of a Cinderella makeover itself. It was kind of lost, looking for something big.
It's quite the setup, isn't it? The network needs saving, and then bam, in comes this group, described in one source as a cabal of gay men.
I love that phrase.
Me too. And the creators apparently saw them as these fairy godfathers who could deliver this morality tale for an America that was finally ready to listen. Which, putting 5 openly gay men front and center on a show back then, that was a huge risk.
Massive gamble. The show was called Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. And let's face it, that title alone, as our sources say, could have easily turned off, well, pretty much everyone.
Right, a bit provocative for the time.
Definitely. And some of the early stuff, it kind of leaned into stereotypes a bit. But then it premieres July 2003. And it just blows up, smashes expectations, becomes the highest rated show in Bravo's entire history up to that point. Like one source said, the ball was just getting started. Instant sensation. Nobody saw coming.
And that success, it wasn't just a blip. It really kicked off this whole cultural moment. The original Fab Five, right?
Yeah.
Ted Allen doing Food and Wine, making cooking seem doable.
Yeah, approachable.
Kyan Douglas on grooming. Tom Felicia, the design guy. Carson Kressley, fashion, super witty. And Jai Rodriguez handling, culture.
Whatever that meant.
Yeah, it was a bit vague. But they became instant stars, like household names. You saw them everywhere. And behind the scenes, brands were desperate to get involved, to be part of this make better pageant, as the creators called it. It's this crazy mix of cultural impact and big business.
They really were like the superheroes of style for that time. And their mission, it was pretty straightforward back then, wasn't it?
Yeah, very clear.
They'd find these guys, the sources call them aesthetically challenged men. a bit dated now maybe, but it fits the premise.
Right.
And the Fab Five would just descend, fix the fashion, the apartment, the grooming, the cooking, and, the culture piece. But the key thing our sources point out is how external it all was.
That's a really crucial point to grasp about the original. It was almost entirely focused on the outside. The main goal was, okay, let's make over this guy's look, his place, so he can present his best self to the outside world.
Right.
It was about giving them the tools, the know-how to basically improve how they looked, how they came across, fit in better, maybe impress someone. The change was visible, quick, and all about mastering that public image.
And man, they were good at it. The sources really paint a picture. Like, in 1 week, the Fab Five could teach a man to fish, then to prepare the fish with some freshly infused herb butter while wearing a tailored suit and tastefully applied cologne.
Uh-huh. That's such a specific image.
Isn't it great? It just perfectly shows how comprehensive it was. They covered everything about how a guy presented himself, not just a haircut. It was the whole package.
And you have to remember the context. Early 2000s, it's super important for understanding why this hit so hard. One source reminds us it was a time when gay men were faced with a lot of hate, partially because they were given absolutely no representation in the media.
Yeah, visibility was practically zero in mainstream stuff.
Exactly. You just didn't see openly gay men, certainly not portrayed as, successful, stylish experts like this. The show really was groundbreaking in that sense. It had put positive images out there to a massive audience.
It did way more than just break ground, though. It felt like it genuinely smashed some barriers. The show introduced gay men into popular reality television, right? And suddenly the world saw the Fab Five. People learned about aspects of gay culture, about gay people, just by watching. It wasn't only about their skills, it was just them being there. They got to exercise their talents and bonded with straight men on screen, which, as the sources say, just hadn't really been explored much then.
Yeah, it was a new dynamic on TV.
It gave viewers this peek into a world many hadn't encountered, maybe fostering a bit of understanding, maybe even some respect from people who held negative views before. It kind of became this unintentional, really accessible form of advocacy just by being popular.
And the legacy it left, maybe not entirely planned in its scope, but it was huge. This wasn't just some flash-in-the-pan hit. Our sources really emphasize this. The show became the reality TV model upon which its network's future was built.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not just about the ratings. It pioneered a whole format. The sources explain how Queer Eye for the Straight Guy basically set this template. You get these charismatic people, you do aspirational transformations, you mix personal stories with something commercially viable.
Okay, I see that.
And that formula, Bravo ran with it. Think about their later hits, the Real Housewives franchise, which is just massive, right?
Huge.
It basically took the Queer Eye blueprint, distinct personalities, aspirational lifestyles, drama-filled character stories, and just applied it differently. Our sources actually say we can pretty much thank the OG Fab Five for inadvertently birthing the Real Housewives masterstroke.
No way. That's wild.
It's a pretty significant and kind of funny ripple effect on the whole TV landscape, isn't it?
Talk about unintended consequences. An entire empire built off that one show. So, okay, that was the original. Trailblazing stuff. But, time marches on, culture shifts. Fast forward to 2017, whole different world again. And you gotta wonder, could that old Queer Eye magic still work? And that's exactly when Netflix decides, yeah, let's bring it back. But, crucially, with a really different goal in mind.
That's the key pivot, isn't it? By 2017, the original premise, well, it felt a bit dated to some people. The idea of gay men arriving on hapless heterosexuals' doorsteps asking to be heard, as one source put it. Surely our queer-friendlier landscape had progressed beyond that.
Right, things had changed.
A lot had changed. You had marriage equality, growing trans visibility. The original fight, just for basic visibility, felt to some extent like maybe that battle was largely won, or at least significantly advanced. So, yeah, the question was, what's the point now?
But people were still hungry for something, weren't they? There was this feeling, maybe a desire for that bygone comfort food, as one source called the nostalgia factor.
Yeah, that comfort aspect.
But also maybe something deeper, like a real human connection. And this is where the Netflix reboot makes this huge statement. Tan France, one of the new Fab Five, he said it perfectly. The original show was fighting for tolerance. We're fighting for acceptance.
And that distinction, tolerance versus acceptance, it comes up again and again in the sources. It's absolutely fundamental to understanding the new show.
Explain that difference a bit more.
Well, tolerance, it kind of implies just putting up with something. Like, okay, you can exist, I'll endure your presence, maybe reluctantly.
Right, like permission.
Exactly. Acceptance, though, that's different. That's active. It's embracing, valuing, celebrating. It's about unconditional positive regard. It's a much higher bar.
Okay, yeah, big difference.
Huge.
Yeah.
And to aim for that deeper goal, the new Fab Five didn't just bring new energy. They also made this really smart move with the location. Changed the whole dynamic.
Ah, yes, the new crew. Let's meet them. Carrying this new mission, you've got Bobby Burke, the design guy, turning houses into actual homes.
Sanctuaries?
Karamo Brown, culture, but really digging into emotional stuff, life coaching almost. Tan France, fashion with that famous French tuck.
Can't forget the French tuck.
And Tony Perovsky, making food feel personal and doable. And Jonathan Van Ness, grooming and self-care, just pure infectious energy.
Yes. JVM?
Totally new group, same basic areas, but reinterpreted. And the setting, they moved. Not New York City this time. They started in Atlanta, Georgia.
And that move, well, okay, sources are pretty clear. It was probably driven initially by George's sweet tax deals for filming.
Haha, the practical stuff.
The practical stuff, yeah. But it quickly became way more than that. It turned into this incredibly powerful narrative device. As one source put it, having 5 openly, unapologetically gay men just a short drive from blood-red Trump country is a recipe for a teachable moment.
Wow, that framing.
And the producers, they leaned right into it. They didn't shy away. This setting, this clash of cultures almost, it just created these interactions that were so different, often way more challenging, but ultimately maybe more meaningful than the original NYC setting ever really allowed for.
That is such a good point. It really did set the stage for encounters that felt, more charged, deeper, pushed the comfort zone in a way the first show didn't really aim to, maybe.
Definitely.
That location choice really highlighted the core evolution we were talking about, moving past just tolerance, aiming for real, heartfelt acceptance, often across these big cultural or political gaps. It put the mission right out there.
And that evolution, it wasn't just geographic. It went right to the heart of the makeovers themselves. The Netflix version, the sources make this really clear, puts this heavy emphasis on a deeper human connection, one that really challenges conventional notions of masculinity and self-care.
Oh.
Now, it doesn't completely ditch the consumerism, right? One source calls it flagrant consumerism. That's part of its DNA. There's still new furniture, new clothes.
Of course. It's still a makeover show.
Exactly. But it channels that consumerism differently.
Yeah.
It reframes those external upgrades as, like, essential parts of a bigger internal change.
Okay, now this is where it gets really fascinating for me. The new Fab Five, their mission isn't just about polishing the outside. It's about really engaging with the inner lives of their heroes, too, getting into the emotional stuff. In fact, our sources argue that Queer Eye now sees improvements to the latter, the external, as a means to improve the former, the internal, rather than as a goal in and of itself. Did I get that right?
You absolutely did. It's a total flip in philosophy. The outside changes. They become the pathway, the catalyst for the inside growth. They're not the end game anymore. They're how you get to something much more significant.
That's so smart.
And they really approach it not just as stylists or whatever, but like a vocation, one source says. Like it's a real calling to help. They manage to demolish walls with humor and grace, showing that the core idea, the open-heartedness of Queer Eye is timeless, It doesn't matter if it's 2003 or 2023. That commitment to seeing and lifting up the whole person, inside and out, that's what makes the reboot feel so different, so resonant.
So if the outer stuff is the memes, what's the end? What's this inner life makeover really about?
The philosophy seems to be that fashion, beauty, design, food, they aren't just surface-level luxuries.
Exactly. They're not frivolous. They're presented as extensions of deeper, more meaningful shifts. The Fab Five aren't just saying, hey, wear this shirt. They're getting their heroes to buy into the idea that these changes, these topical changes, are actually part of a bigger personal journey.
Right.
It's about helping the hero see themselves in a new light and having the outside reflect and kind of reinforce the internal changes that are starting to happen.
That is such an emotionally intelligent way to frame it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It lets them use the concrete, visible stuff, the haircut, the new sofa, to help unlock these deeper emotional breakthroughs.
Like Tan, the fashion guy, he often says things like, dressing well isn't a sign of vanity, but a way of signaling to loved ones that you're taking the time to present yourself with them in mind.
Right. It connects fashion to relationships, to respect. not just looking good for yourself.
And Bobby, with design, he might use a home redesign as an opportunity to give overburdened parents a separate adult space from their 6 children.
Recognizing that physical space impacts mental space.
Yeah. He sees that a clean room or a quiet corner can actually tackle things like burnout, make people feel valued again, or Jonathan with grooming. He talks about the benefits of a beauty routine as a way to take time for oneself in the midst of a hectic schedule.
Reframing self-care as necessary, not selfish.
Exactly. It's not indulgence. It's essential for staying sane.
It's these subtle but really powerful shifts in perspective on everyday things. And the underlying wisdom, like you said, is that through these seemingly surface changes, the Fab Five can impart their wisdom on messier, more intangible issues like emotional labor and vulnerability. The new clothes, the nice apartment, the easy recipes, in a way, they're mostly a visual aid for these big emotional realizations, like teaching guys it's okay to show emotion, or that communication matters, or noticing if your partner is doing all the work.
They model a different way of being a man, really, one that includes self-care, talking about feelings, connecting.
Precisely. And those realizations, those inner shifts, they lead to some incredibly powerful moments. The sources highlight some great examples. We should definitely talk about Tom. From the very first episode of the reboot, he really set the stage.
Oh, Tom, yes. The redneck margarita guy. He was introduced as this single grandfather and 3-time divorcee living outside Atlanta, kind of stuck in his ways.
Eating greasy food, his house is a mess.
Total mess. Ill-fitting clothes. And he was really open about feeling bad about himself. And the Fab Five's whole mission with him, it wasn't just cleanup. It was geared towards this specific goal. A coming out party for his new self, which was basically a car show date with his ex-wife, Abby, who he was still clearly in love with.
Right, the stakes felt really personal and high for him.
Totally. And remember Jonathan's line to him during the grooming part. He said Tom's insecurity about his looks is the ugliest thing about you.
Oof. Powerful.
Yeah. It just cut right through, didn't it? Using the external focus, his appearance, to get at that deep internal block.
It absolutely did. Hit the nail on the head about what was holding him back from connection. Then there was Neil. Remember him, the tech guy who was super isolated?
Oh, yeah, the guy who hadn't had anyone over in like a decade.
That's him. He admitted it. And they diagnosed him as just being closed off to everything new. His apartment was, well, reflected that chaos. So Karamo takes him boxing, right?
Yeah.
To physically confront things, open up. And Tony teaches him to cook something he can share with people. A literal invitation.
Small steps, but meaningful.
Exactly. And by the end, he loses this truly epic beard, but he also seems to shed those protective outer walls. The change was emotional as much as physical. Showed how practical skills could be therapeutic.
And then there's AJ, the gay engineer. That episode, wow. Our sources call it the furthest expansion of what Queer Eye can be sans straight guy modifier, because it went so far beyond just looks.
Yeah, that was a heavy one.
They didn't just update his wardrobe. They were really there to help him come out to his stepmother and embrace his identity. Fashion became like this tool for building self-confidence and working through internalized homophobia.
Right. It wasn't about impressing anyone else. It was about him feeling authentic, feeling brave.
And Karamo's bit with him, the ziplining.
Oh, yeah, the metaphor.
Super on-the-nose metaphor for taking a leap of faith, as the sources say, both literally off the platform and emotionally.
And it leads to that incredibly wrenching coming out scene where he finally tells his stepmom and just breaks down all that pent-up emotion.
So powerful.
That whole episode felt less about fixing things and more about gently teasing out emotions that have been painfully pushed away and insisting on conversation. A real lesson in vulnerability.
What's really interesting, though, and the sources pick up on this a lot, is that even though the show's called Queer Eye and it stars 5 gay men, sexuality itself often feels like more of a background hum.
That's a really good way to put it.
It's there, obviously. It shapes their perspective, their empathy, but it's not always the main point of the hero's story or transformation.
Yeah, that's a very sharp observation. One source says, Queer Eye feels more like a show about men and masculinity, and in its most moving moments, it enables men to talk to each other in a way that they claim they have been unable to do before.
Wow.
It kind of becomes this space where guys, straight or gay or whatever, can explore being vulnerable, expressing emotion, connecting in ways they maybe haven't before. The Fab Five create this environment where that old school stoic masculinity gets gently challenged, you know?
Opening the door to a different, maybe richer way of being for these heroes. So, okay. The show does all this amazing emotional work, these incredible transformations, but let's be real, it's still reality TV, right? And that comes with limitations. Our sources are pretty blunt about this. There's this built-in tension.
Absolutely. A core critique that comes up is simply that reality show logic is not real-life logic. The show, because it has to wrap things up in an hour, inevitably brushes up against truths too harsh and problems too complicated for one lighthearted entertainment to address.
Yeah, the neat little bows at the end.
Right. They feel good to watch, but they often simplify these really complex, deep-seated issues that go way beyond just, cleaning your closet or learning to make guacamole.
You see that especially in those moments, those heart-to-hearts whose takeaways unfailingly boil down to, deep down, we're all just human beings.
Which is nice. It's true.
It is sweet. But the sources argue it can feel a little thin when you're up against really big societal problems or super ingrained personal stuff. And then there are those problems that a makeover just fundamentally can't fix.
Definitely. Like, remember the episode with the family of 8 whose father works 2 separate jobs, often working until 4 a.m.?
Oh, yeah, that was tough.
The real issues there were clearly much broader systemic failures, not a disorganized living room. A home makeover, sure, it helps, makes life maybe a bit easier, nicer, but it doesn't solve poverty or economic insecurity or the insane pressure of working multiple jobs. A nice living room doesn't pay the bills or give you more sleep. And that's where the show's feel-good vibe kind of clashes with harsh reality.
And sometimes you can almost feel what the sources call the invisible hand of the producers. Like you wonder how much work goes into making sure certain relationships, like Tom's hope with Abby, reads as cute, not creepy for TV.
Right, how much is shaped for the narrative.
Exactly. The show never breaks that fourth wall. It keeps up the illusion it's all just happening spontaneously, which sometimes maybe holds it back from digging into messier, more ambiguous stuff.
And beyond just the limits of the format, the show has definitely had to navigate some tricky political and social waters. Sometimes successfully, sometimes, well, drawing more criticism. The Corey episode, the cop who loved NASCAR, that's a big one.
Oh man, that episode was tense from the start, wasn't it? When his friend pulls them over as a joke?
Yeah, seriously, tense and weighted with dread, especially with Karamo driving. But later, Karamo has this really direct, powerful talk with Corey about police brutality, which for the show felt like a really significant moment of confronting a tough issue head on.
It did. But Corey was also openly a Trump supporter, right? Like a garage full of Trump-Pence signs.
Exactly. And this is where the nuance and maybe the show's limits become really clear. Karamo's conversation definitely makes Corey think, makes him consider the other side of the police brutality debate. That's huge.
Yeah.
But the sources point out, the Fab Five never directly push Corey on the homophobia of a politician whose name is prominently displayed in his own home. It suggests there's a line the show won't cross, that maybe there are only so many entrenched divides a single episode of television can bridge. And maybe directly tackling that level of political belief and the bigotry often attached to it would risk bursting that bubble required to keep TV comforting.
Right. It's maybe a practical choice for keeping the show appealing, but yeah, it does raise questions about how deep the acceptance mission can really go in those situations.
It's a tough balance. How much do you push without losing the audience or changing the fundamental nature of the show? Is it a makeover show or a debate show?
Yeah. But maybe the episode that got the most intense scrutiny, the most complex analysis in our sources, is the one they call the trans episode. Sky's Limit from 2018 with Skylar, the trans drag king.
Yes, Skylar's episode, that one generated a lot of discussion. And it really shows both how far the show had come and where it still perhaps fell short, according to critics.
How so? Progress first?
Well, compared to the original show's attempt at a trans episode back in 2006, transformed this trans man, Miles G., which sources called just deeply cringeworthy cis gay shenanigans, often clumsy and misinformed.
Okay, low bar maybe.
Maybe. But the new episode with Skylar felt like a gust of cool mountain air in comparison. The new Fab Five generally consistently treats Skylar with respect. Karamo, especially, gives real emotional support while Skylar renews his driver's license, helping him through that often difficult process. That's a huge leap forward in just basic empathy and representation.
Okay, so definite improvement in sensitivity. But you said problems too.
Yeah, despite the progress, there were some significant issues raised, especially around consent and how Skylar's trans identity was framed. The episode opens really uncomfortably with the Fab Five watching a graphic video of Skylar's top surgery, looking shocked.
Oh, I remember that. It felt invasive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Schuyler apparently said later he was surprised they even saw it, which raises serious questions about the show's already dubious policy on consent, like what
Yeah.
footage gets used and how. And critics argue that opening scene contributes to this audiovisual othering of Schuyler, basically making his introduction all about the medical aspect, framing him differently, maybe more sensationally than other heroes. And beyond that, there were critiques about the Fab Five maybe policing queerness.
Policing queerness, what does that mean in this context?
Well, Bobby, the designer, seemed to some critics like he was judging Schuyler's specific expressions of queer identity in his apartment. He comments on the rainbow flags, the hats, saying things like, "Queer is a pillar in the house of Schuyler, not a trash can, not wall art."
Implying it's too much.
Kind of. Or that it needs to be more, I don't know, tasteful. He even asked Schuyler, "Are you ready for what an adult man's bed looks like?" Suggesting Schuyler's current style is maybe immature or, yeah, too queer. Cromwell makes a similar comment about his house looking like someone in their early 20s, where everything is about being part of the queer community.
Okay, I can see how that could feel like judgment, like tone it down a bit.
Exactly. The critic's take is that the underlying message felt like they'll help Schuyler, but on the condition that they get to teach him to be respectably queer. It walks that fine line between acceptance and assimilation. Are they accepting Schuyler as he is, or trying to make him fit a more palatable, maybe more cis-normative mold?
That's a really complex tension, especially within the LGBTQ plus community itself, that pressure to assimilate.
Definitely. And it also connects to this broader critique that, at its heart, Queer Eye is still a show about well-heeled, cis gay men dishing out corporate-funded makeovers that many of their subjects could never afford on their own. Kind of like subtle capitalist propaganda.
The consumerism angle again.
Yeah. With Schuyler, they mention his real financial struggles, needing thousands for surgery, facing potentially huge costs for complications. These are massive burdens. But after acknowledging them briefly, the focus shifts. He and his roommates get kind of shamed for a cat pee couch. It pivots away from the systemic money issues back to like personal responsibility for cleanliness.
So it highlights the limits of a makeover solution when the real problems are economic.
Pretty much. The reboot might be more subtle in its capitalist propaganda than the original's obvious sponsorships, but the critique is still there. Can you really fix deep problems just by buying new stuff?
There's a twist here, right? A moment of redemption, maybe, especially with Tan.
Yes. This is where Schuyler's episode gets really interesting and adds another layer. Amidst all these valid critiques, Tan France has this incredibly personal moment of insight about assimilation. Initially, yeah, he's a bit clumsy. Admits he's never met a trans person, which sources note probably isn't true. He just hadn't met anyone who told him they were trans.
Right.
And he bluntly calls Schuyler's clothes whack, which, maybe wasn't the kindest thing right after surgery.
Yeah, timing maybe not great. Felt a bit harsh.
It did. Showed a bit of a blind spot, maybe. Yeah. But then Tan has this amazing moment of self-reflection. He opens up really vulnerably and says he himself was obsessed with assimilating for most of his adult life, that he'd actively hidden myself away to make sure that people are more comfortable.
Wow. That's huge for him to admit.
It really is. And he says he wishes he had a little bit more of what Schuyler has, that strong connection to community, that unapologetic self-expression.
So Schuyler actually taught him something profound.
Exactly. And sources call this a vitally important message, especially for cis gay men. It pushes back against that "we're just like you" idea that dominated the marriage equality fight. While that worked legally, it maybe led some people to feel they had to downplay their queerness, denied full expression of themselves for fear of losing that hard-won seat at the table. Tan's honesty here is called deeply necessary. It's a reminder about the value of community, of pride, of not having to hide parts of yourself to be accepted. It's a powerful moment of growth, not just for Tan, but maybe for the show, too.
Okay, so bringing it all together now, we've seen the evolution, the impact, the complexities, the critiques. What's the lasting feeling? It seems like, despite the issues, Queer Eye has become more than just TV. It feels like activism, almost.
I think that's fair to say. Our sources definitely see it that way. They say the Fab Five are genuinely fighting for our rights and speaking out for acceptance of all. They aren't just hosts. They're inspirations themselves, people who've overcome their own tragic and uplifting stories. And their impact goes right into those towns, those homes where maybe attitudes are different. They connect with people. And it's not just about the makeover. It's about helping individuals find self-love, find acceptance. It's this very personal, one-on-one kind of advocacy.
That quote really sticks with me. When they enter someone's home who lives in a deeply religious or political town, and then that person finds love in these 5 beautiful gay men, that is saving the world one person or one family at a time. That's powerful.
It really is. The show carries this belief in equality for everyone, and it demonstrates how acceptance spreading through the world can happen just through human connection.
And a huge part of that seems to be the Fab Five themselves, their relationship with each other. You can feel it, right?
Oh, absolutely. Watching them is often just fun because they seem to genuinely love each other. Like one source says, it's like spending time with your best friend. Their dynamic feels so close and so gorgeous.
Yeah.
It models true trust between people, this healthy, supportive friendship. It's not just professional, it feels real.
And seeing that joy, that camaraderie, that matters, doesn't it? They show such joy just from being together and being who they are that true pride, seeing it celebrated so openly is important, especially for LGBTQ plus viewers who might not see that reflected positively elsewhere or who face negativity in their own
That's
lives.
like an antidote, yeah.
Yeah.
And that leads right into the deep personal connection so many viewers feel. For a lot of people, especially in the community, Queer Eye isn't just entertainment. It's described as a safe space, a guaranteed smile, some fun, but also this crucial reminder that you can be loved and accepted. That's huge if you're dealing with bullying or isolation or family rejection. It provides a sense of belonging.
There was that episode, Black Girl Magic, with Jess Gilbo in season 3. That really drove it home for me. She'd been kicked out as a teen for being gay. Years of struggle.
Yeah, heartbreaking story.
And seeing her journey with the Fab Five, finding that confidence, the source highlighted the moment she could finally say out loud that she feels sexy and confident in her own skin and call herself a strong, black, lesbian woman. That wasn't just inspiring for her, you felt it radiating outwards.
You really did. And Carol's connection with her was so key there, helping her discover the roots of her fears about reaching out to her family and showing her she did have people who loved her.
Mm-hmm.
It creates this ripple effect for the audience, too. When you see someone you identify with gains a newfound love for themselves, you tend to go through that journey alongside them. You feel their breakthroughs. You find some strength yourself. It builds this really deep emotional bond.
So, wow, we've covered a lot. From Bravo Saving Grace to Netflix phenomenon, from tolerance to acceptance, from external fix-ups to deep dives into the inner self, it's been quite the evolution.
It really has. An incredible journey for a TV show, constantly adapting, growing, trying to meet the moment while staying true to that core open-heartedness.
A great example of how even a makeover show can evolve to tackle complex issues and foster real empathy.
Definitely.
So wrapping this deep dive up, what's the final thought for you, our listener? Queer Eye really pushes what a makeover show can do, right? It dares to take a peek under the hood, look at people's lives. It often gives us this big-hearted portrait of people trying to be better, finding common ground, showing shared decency.
It does that beautifully.
But it also makes us think, doesn't it, about that line between acceptance and assimilation, about how much comfort TV can really fix when faced with huge societal problems. So maybe the question to leave you with is this. What assumptions about change, about community, do you think Queer Eye challenges most effectively? And where do you see its limitations? What does this journey teach us about the ongoing fight, not just for tolerance, but for real, deep acceptance in our own lives and communities?